My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review for The Other Side of the Door, and this review will have spoilers, so there's your warning. But anyways, I had low expectations for this movie, and it's not quite as bad as I thought it would be, but that said, it's still a terrible movie. So let's begin talking about the cast. And Sarah Lane Callies, I actually thought did a pretty good job. She sells you on everything she needs to, and even though it's not a next level performance, it doesn't get to greatness, it's still pretty good. Jeremy Sisto, I thought, did a perfectly fine job, but he's not in the movie as much as you think he would be. In fact, he's the very cliche character where he always calls his wife and is just like, "Ah, sorry, I gotta work late tonight." Like, you really feel his absence in the majority of this movie. Sofia Wazinski plays the daughter, and I thought she did a pretty good job, especially in the last act where she's possessed and she's gaslighting her mom and she ends up trying to kill her dad. I thought she sold you on everything she needed to. Logan Creeran is barely in the movie, but I guess he does a perfectly fine job. Sekatra Pilera, I thought, did a perfectly fine job. And Javier Boudet, I found to be frustrating because the guy is capable of being the next Andy Serkis, of being the next Doug Jones. But he picks movies like this, and I just find it frustrating. This movie doesn't utilize his strengths in any way, and I was annoyed. So let's begin talking about the story here because this movie is about grief and loss, and I actually think the movie does a good job with that because early on we find out what happened, and it's that the mom is in a car crash with her son and her daughter, and she's trying to save them both, but she can only save one, so she saves the daughter and she tells the son she will be right back to save him. But when she gets back to the surface, the people don't let her go back down. And that's actually tragic because not only did she lose a son, but she knows that her son died thinking that his mom abandoned him. Like, that is just a devastating thought. So you understand why she is the way that she is. You understand why she is broken and why she's desperate for closure. Desperate to talk to her son, to let him know that she didn't mean to abandon him. She did want to rescue him. And that's a good emotional hook of the story. And on top of all that, I love just how rooted in Indian culture this movie is. It does allow it to stand out a little bit. So, after the first act, I thought there was plenty of potential within this movie. But the issue is that it's just so generic. Movies like this make me appreciate James Wan as a director even more. Like, you take movies like Insidious 1 and 2 and The Conjuring 1 and 2, and on paper, those could have been generic haunting movies. But James Wan is such a great director that he elevates them in every sense, and those movies are scary, which allow them to stand out. And I think most of this movie's problems come down to the direction by Johannes Roberts, who just isn't good. This movie is never scary, and its attempt at jump scares is just pathetic. I'm a defender of jump scares, and movies like this are just everything wrong with them. There's no tension, there's no atmosphere, it just feels cheap. So it's not the payoff to any build up, it's just a reliance. And I was just watching this movie and I'm just like, you threw away all the potential that the movie set up. And the movie is also quite slow and really boring. And it does just fall back on cliches at an eventual point. And it just bums me out because I saw the potential here for a very human story and how grief can drive us to dark places, but instead we just get a very generic haunting movie. And the people that show up every now and again, like, I hate this cliche when there's a haunting, but then people who know about what's happening just show up randomly. It never really works for me, and it doesn't work for me in this movie. So, even though I appreciate so much of what this movie is trying to do, and even though the cast does a perfectly fine job, I think the writing and the direction just hold this movie back, and it just ends up being like a very terrible movie. It is boring. It's not a movie I would watch again, so I can't go any higher than giving The Other Side of the Door a 3 out of 10. Okay, have you seen The Other Side of the Door? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos soon. And Gavin out.